Aang I opened her "Read if I'm late" letter. Then he knocked. The envelope lived in the bowl with the spare keys. A white rectangle with Sierra written across the front in her clean script, and below it, smaller, read "If I'm late." The bowl also held loose screws, a Metro card that still believed in us, and a button from my old coat. It was the kind of arrangement that has its own weather. Every time I dug for keys, my fingers skimmed the paper's edge and my chest answered, "Not tonight." At 12:11 a.m., the apartment had that late-night hush that makes even refrigerators feel contrite. The rain tried and failed to turn itself into drama against the window. Sierra's text, running behind, "Don't wait up," had arrived at 9:02 with a little shooting star emoji she uses when she wants me to think delay is magic. She had a panel at the cultural center on narratives of care, a phrase that sounds like a neat door in daylight and a broken lock at midnight. I watched the ceiling make decisions, and then went to the bowl and picked up the envelope. You're not supposed to open time capsules while the person they are meant for still belongs to the day. But "read if I'm late" is an equation you can balance two ways. It was after midnight. The envelope was soft with our climate. I slit it with the dull side of a butter knife, because doing a rude thing carefully feels like respect. Inside, a single sheet, her handwriting at miniature scale, as if economy were a virtue even in confession. Noah, if you're reading this, I'm not where I promised. There are two versions. Version 1. I lost track of something ordinary and my phone died, and I am on my way to you with cheeks that hurt from apologizing to strangers. Version 2. I wanted to look at a door I should not open, and I went to stand in front of it so I could practice saying no out loud, in a room that won't echo into our kitchen. If it's version 2, the address is on the back. I will be back by 12:30. If I'm not, it's because I hate myself and I am practicing how to stop. Yes. P.S. If I'm home when you read this because you panicked and opened it, fold this letter around a lemon and put it back in the bowl, and I'll pretend we're both braver than we are. I turned the page over. There it was, an address I recognized, a hotel whose lobby smelled like limes and the self-esteem of large donors. Room number 909. I didn't like the number. It looked like two doorways and a mirror. I looked at the clock. 12:14. The longest truth about me is that I'm excellent at waiting and awful at waiting. I folded the letter the way she wanted, around the lemon we keep for tea, and tucked it back into the bowl. Then I sat on the edge of the couch as if the apartment had changed its slope and I needed to make sure we didn't slide off. At 12:17, someone knocked. I tell you this knowing it makes what happens next sound scripted. The knock was polite. 2 counts. I stood there in socks and counted them again in my head, as if arithmetic could be morality. I opened the door. A man stood there with rain turning his hair into confession. Mid-30s, the age the city looks best on, and handsome in the way of things that know their angles. Navy coat, a jaw that had been proofread, apology already chambered behind his teeth. He had the kind of posture that says, "I live my life where my name is on doors." He looked at my face like it was a document he'd been sent too late. "You're Noah," he said. His voice sounded like he belonged to better lighting. "That's my name," I said. "What's yours?" "Adrian," he said. "But Sierra calls me A." He winced at himself. "I am not here to audition for villain. I'm here to return a mistake, and to apologize, but I assume that is not a currency you accept." He held up a familiar blue rectangle, Sierra's ID card for the center, clipped to the lanyard she hates. It swung like a small, embarrassed pendulum. "She left this," he said, "and she asked me to drop it on my way home. She said," he stopped, The way he shut his mouth made me like him less and respect him more. She said what? I asked, as gently as my mouth allows at midnight. She said you are the place she goes when she's finished practicing, he said, and that if I wanted to be a better person, I should try being ordinary. I took the card. The plastic felt heavier in my hand than it did on her chest. How long have you been practicing at her? I asked. He smiled at that. It was small, unflattering to him. 2 months, he said. Give or take the days I refuse to count. She's been telling me no in at least 3 dialects. I understood the one with nouns. I did not understand the one with her face. You showed up at my door to end the story or to test it? I asked. Both, I think, he said. I am the kind of man who wants to be seen letting someone go. It makes me feel like I own the exit. I dislike that about myself, but I don't dislike it enough yet. I could have made a moment in the hall. I could have raised my voice and the neighbors could have collected virtue by proximity. Instead I said, "You're done," as if I were signing for a package I didn't want and couldn't refuse. He nodded. He put his hand out and I shook it because my worst trait is believing in ceremony. His hand was cold and unargumentative. Tell her I did the errand, he said. I'll tell her you learned a word, I said. He left with the posture of a man who had successfully performed ending. I shut the door and leaned my forehead against the wood in the old ritual we pretend doesn't help. Then I went to the window and watched the rain negotiate with the street. At 12:31, the lock turned. Sierra came in like she'd been underwater and had earned air. She saw me and stopped just past the threshold, as if to confirm I matched the silhouette she'd told herself I would be. You opened it, she said, the way you point out that the tide was on time. You knocked, I said, via subcontractor. She looked at the bowl. The envelope sat obediently with the lemon inside, a shape you couldn't mistake if you knew us. She put her bag down and leaned against the door, eyes closed. She opened them. She closed them again. She opened them and met mine. Version 2, she said, a brittle smile at the corner of her mouth. I went to the door. I said what I had to say. It echoed in a carpeted way I didn't like, and then he said a sentence that would work better in a movie, and I came home to say better ones here. What was the sentence? I asked, because I am tired of unindexed villains. He said he loved my honesty, she said, which is what men say when they want you to keep telling the truth to them so they can go lie elsewhere without the burden of being called on it. And what did you say? I said I love my ordinary, she said, without bragging. And then I stole back my ID, and he followed me to the curb asking if that meant he should wait. I kept walking until I remembered I don't owe sidewalks letters. Then I asked him to return the card because I forgot I needed both hands to hold on to my life. You wrote the letter for me, I said. She nodded. My better angels don't fly, they leave instructions. We didn't go to the bedroom to fix anything. We went because bodies know when words have been working overtime. She stood in front of me, and I lifted the hem of her shirt with the slow courtesy I reserve for books I underline. The fabric made that small, honest sound cloth makes when it leaves the conversation. Erotic is a word people misuse. They think it means spectacle. For us, it's precision. The way she guided my palm to her ribs and pressed until the pressure said, "Here." The way my mouth found the place below her ear where decisions live, and she said my name in the version that means keep. The way we asked small questions, like this, more, now, and answered with breath. We laughed once when a sleeve refused, and she used her teeth to free me as if rescuing clothing could be a sacrament. Heat arrived like weather you knew about from the forecast and still marvel at when it falls. When we came apart together, it felt less like victory and more like a signature you practice until it looks like your name again. We lay there a while, breath quieting into a harmony we've worked toward for years. She put her cheek on my chest and traced a circle over the spot where my worst ideas nap. "I'm not pure," she said. "I didn't apply," I said. "I want the person who writes letters to herself and me and chooses us in sentences we can survive." "I wanted to be asked again," she admitted. "I wanted to look at wanting and decide something with a view I won't need to unsee in our kitchen. I like that you didn't call. I would have then had to forgive you for saving me. I preferred saving me." "I'm still working on that," I said. "Not saving can feel like abandonment when you live in your head the way I do." "Then write rules," she said, kissing the center of my chest as if to stamp them. "We love rules when they are tools." We wrote them with a pencil on the back of a flyer for the panel she had just fled. 1. If an ending requires a room, name it in our house before you rent it. 2. Nothing addressed to promotions gets to make decisions. If the world wants us to know, it can act like it. 3. Novelty is a chore. Your weeks mean wrong hour for the right thing. My weeks mean I move the furniture until the light has to learn us again. 4. When we both miss the wrong attention, we say it out loud. Peel oranges over the sink and play one song to the end before we touch anything. At 1:12, she stood and pulled me to the kitchen with the solemnity of someone starting a ceremony that doesn't need an officiant. We peeled oranges and let the citrus sharpen the room. We listened to a song we like for its precise forgiveness. We kissed in the hallway so the apartment could witness we meant it. Then we went to sleep, because sleep is sometimes braver than talking. The next morning, the bowl with the lemon held the folded letter like a satisfied animal. Sierra took it out and kissed the crease. "Do you want to put it back?" I asked. "I want to write a new one," she said. "Read if I'm early." She sat, cross-legged at the table, and wrote a line. I watched the muscle in her jaw work with concentration. The sunlight caught the little scar near her temple she claims she got from childhood, but I know belongs to adulthood, walking into a cupboard because you refuse to admit you've made the same mistake twice. At lunch, I met a friend who likes to collect other people's problems and catalog them as warning labels. She carries a notebook and a pen that looks expensive enough to make the truth jump through hoops. She listened and nodded and said, "Make sure you don't become his understudy." And I said, "I don't understudy men with better coats than integrity." And she laughed in the way that means you're fine enough to let humor in. A week later, I saw Adrian across the street at a gallery where sincerity costs more in frames. He looked thinner than he'd like to look. He saw me and raised a hand, and I did not raise mine back because I am unkind in precisely calibrated ways. He came over anyway, a man performing reconciliation for a crowd of none. "Did she tell you I brought the card?" he asked. "She did," I said. "Did you tell yourself that was your good deed for the season?" "I told myself I didn't need to be the last one to narrate her," he said. "It's not sticking yet." "Try narrating yourself," I suggested. "Start with the part where you prefer exits to consequences." He smiled at that too. "I keep forgetting my mouth is a location some men enjoy." "You're good at lines," he said. "I practice at home," I said and left him, because there are times when your back needs to be the last word. Sierra and I didn't become saints. We became specific. There's a difference. The envelope stayed in the bowl for a month and then went into the drawer where we keep manuals for appliances we pretend we will fix ourselves. Every once in a while I take it out and smell the lemon and feel my chest learn calm again. She made a new envelope that says "Read if you wake before me," and it contains a single instruction. Make coffee. Write down one sentence that scares you. Put it under my cup. We move the couch 2 inches on Thursdays because rooms can forget who they belong to. We play a song to the end on Sundays before anything important because our attention is the muscle we want to flex, not our pride. On the worst nights, we sit on the floor in the hallway where he handed me the card and we say small true things until one of them becomes big enough to stand up with. Sometimes the bowl still tries to collect weather. A business card slinks in. A folded program in glossy paper that smells like someone else's perfume. We let them sit there until they are only paper. Then we throw them away and replace them with fruit. We are not pure. We are perimetered. We are better at being ordinary than we were, and we have learned that ordinary is a choreography that requires rehearsal. If you need a list of proofs here, the lemon in the bowl has been replaced 3 times. The letter has no new address on the back. The only knock after midnight we answer is from the radiator complaining about our taste in winters. Last week at 12:11 again, a time that now belongs to us, I walked to the window and watched rain fail to become drama and thought, I have no reason to open anything. Then Sierra called from the bedroom, voice warm with invitation and sleep. Noah. And I said, yes, into the dark as if the word were a door. She said, I'm early. And I said, me too. And we met in the hall and started our small, accurate ceremony of being better than our bravest note.